It's a beautiful day, the sun is soft, the breeze is gentle, and the air feels fresh and full of promise. On days like this, we can't help but feel grateful for the little things and wish a bit of good luck upon everyone around us. So wherever you are, I hope today brings you peace, joy, and just the right kind of surprises. Now let's take a quiet moment to breathe, relax, and settle in, because today we're catching up with someone very dear to our hearts, Tieu Ca, and her newborn baby. Their story is filled with warmth, resilience, and those quiet, emotional moments that remind us of the beauty in everyday life. Whether you've been following their journey from the start, or you're just tuning in, you're in for something special. There's something truly powerful about watching a young mother navigate this new chapter. Tieu Ca's strength, her tenderness, and the way she holds her baby close, it's not just a story, it's a feeling, one that stays with you. So grab a warm drink, find a cozy spot, and join us as we explore the latest moments in Tieu Ca's world. Trust me, this is the kind of gentle storytelling that will leave you feeling inspired. Yesterday, Hmong came down from the house to be with Tieu Ca, not just as a partner, but as her steady support through a time that's been both emotionally and physically overwhelming. After days of worry and recovery, they finally received a piece of good news. Tieu Ca was well enough to be discharged from the hospital. Her strength had returned little by little, and now the doctors agreed she was ready to go. The news brought a quiet wave of relief. Hmong helped her pack their things, folding clothes, zipping up bags, carefully gathering everything they'd brought during her stay. There were no grand celebrations, no dramatic tears, just the quiet comfort of knowing the worst had passed, and that they were one step closer to holding their baby again. But their journey wasn't over yet. Their newborn, who had been receiving special care in a separate hospital 40 kilometers away, was still waiting. That hospital had the advanced facilities needed to monitor and treat newborns requiring more attention. And now that Tieu Ca was finally strong enough to travel, both she and Hmong were determined to make the trip together. They hit the road, watching the late afternoon sun dip lower in the sky as they drove. The silence in the car wasn't awkward. It was heavy with emotion, filled with thoughts they didn't dare speak aloud. Were things going to be okay? Would they finally get to hold their baby without wires, without fear? By the time they arrived, it was already late. The visiting hours had ended. The hospital was closed to outsiders for the night, and their hopes of seeing the baby that evening were gently but firmly turned away. Disappointed but understanding the rules, Hmong quickly found a nearby hotel so that Tieu Ca could rest. She was still recovering. Her body needed sleep, warmth, and nourishment. She needed care just as much as their child did. That night, in a small hotel room not far from the hospital, Hmong did what he could to ease her burden. He had gone out earlier to buy her favorite foods, comforting, nourishing dishes she hadn't had in days. He knew how fragile she still was, and he knew that sometimes healing didn't just come from medicine, it came from love, from feeling cared for, from the small acts that say, "I'm here." They sat together at the small table in the room, sharing dinner. Tieu Ca smiled weakly, grateful for the warm meal and the quiet company. But while they ate, Hmong's heart wasn't at ease. His thoughts kept drifting to their child, to the hospital just a few streets away. Was the baby sleeping? Was everything still stable? He didn't say much, but his eyes gave him away. There's a certain kind of strength that doesn't come with words or bold actions. It's the strength to stay calm when your heart is heavy, to care for someone when you're silently falling apart inside. That was Hmong in that moment, doing his best to hold it all together for the people he loved. The night passed quietly. They knew the morning would come with answers and maybe more questions, but for now there was rest, there was food, there was each other, and that mattered more than anything. This is a chapter of their journey that's full of tension, yes, but also full of love, resilience, and the quiet courage it takes to navigate life's hardest moments. Tomorrow, they'll face what comes next. But tonight, they hold on to each other, knowing they're not alone. Dinner had barely ended when the news came, and it felt like a punch to the chest. The hospital informed them that weekend consultations were not allowed. Due to strict internal policies, they wouldn't be able to meet with the doctors or check on their baby's condition until Monday. No exceptions. If anything urgent happened, the medical team would call, but until then, they had to wait. The moment those words sank in, Tieu Ca's expression crumbled. Her hands, still resting on the edge of the table, trembled slightly. And then, like a dam breaking, she began to cry hard. Her shoulders shook, her breath caught in her throat, and the grief she had been holding back since leaving the first hospital spilled out without warning. She sobbed, completely overwhelmed, the image of her tiny newborn alone, fragile and unreachable, haunting her every thought. The pain of being just a few streets away from her baby, yet unable to hold or even see them, was too much to bear. The weekend now felt like an eternity. Hmong was by her side in an instant. He reached out and gently pulled her into his arms, his hand resting on the back of her head, cradling her like something precious, something he didn't want to see break. "It's okay," he whispered, his voice calm, even though his heart ached too. "Baby is going to get better, I promise. The doctors are watching over them. Don't cry, love. Please don't cry." Tieu Ca could barely respond. She managed a few broken words between sobs. "But when will I finally get to hold my baby? I just want to see them, just once." "I know," Hmong replied, softly brushing a tear off her cheek. "But for now you need to rest, okay? We'll go together on Monday. You'll be stronger and our baby will be even better. Right now, crying won't help you or them." She lowered her head and leaned deeper into his chest. Her tears soaked through his shirt, but he didn't flinch. He just held her steady, strong, unshaken. He continued, trying to steady her with reason and reassurance. "Let's go back home for a day or two. You've been through so much. And we need to check on Han, too. You've been worried about her just as much. She's waiting for us." That reminder broke through the noise in her mind. Han, their older child. She'd been staying with relatives while all this chaos unfolded. Tieu Ca had been thinking of her every night, wondering if she was okay, if she missed her mom and dad, if she even understood what was happening. The guilt was like a second weight on her chest. She had one child in the hospital and another waiting at home, and she couldn't be in two places at once. Tieu Ca nodded slowly, still crying but starting to calm. She clutched Hmong's arm tightly, grounding herself in his words. "You're right," she said through her tears. "I miss Han. I need to see baby." Hmong smiled gently, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "Exactly. We go home, we take care of her, and then we come back, first thing Monday. together, stronger. It wasn't the outcome they had hoped for. They had imagined today ending with a hospital visit, with maybe even a glimpse of their newborn through a glass window. Instead, they were facing an empty weekend, full of waiting and unknowns. But they weren't alone in it. And sometimes that's the only thing that keeps you moving forward. They packed their things slowly, neither of them saying much. The mood was heavy, but also warm, like the last flicker of a candle in a quiet room. Tieu Ca was still pale, still worn down by the whirlwind of the past week, but Hmong stayed close, never more than a few steps away, always watching, always making sure she had support both physically and emotionally. Later that night, in the car ride back home, Tieu Ca leaned against the window, her eyes red from crying but finally closed in quiet rest. Hmong kept one hand on the steering wheel and the other ready to reach for hers at any sign of distress. The city lights blurred past them, glowing softly in the rearview mirror like distant stars guiding them home. This chapter of their story was full of delays, emotions, and tough decisions, but also full of love in its rawest, purest form. The kind of love that sits with you when you're broken, that reminds you you're not alone, that holds you when the world feels too heavy to carry. As they pulled into the driveway, the house felt both familiar and distant, like a place that had been waiting patiently for them to return. The porch light flickered on, casting a warm glow over the front steps. It was late, but Han was still awake, curled up on the sofa, her small eyes lighting up the moment she saw them. Tieu Ca knelt down, arms wide open, and Han ran into them without hesitation. In that moment, wrapped in the embrace of her daughter, tears drying on her cheeks, she found a sliver of peace. Tonight, the family wasn't whole just yet, but it was together in every way that mattered, in presence, in intention, in love. They knew Monday would come with answers. And whether those answers brought comfort or new challenges, they would face them side by side. Because sometimes love means holding on. Sometimes it means letting go of fear, of worry, of control just long enough to rest, to breathe, to heal. And sometimes love is simply sitting in the quiet, knowing that even when things feel uncertain, you're exactly where you're meant to be. The story of Tieu Ca, Hmong, and their little ones isn't over. It's only just beginning, so stay with us. There's more to come.
Hôm qua khi những tia nắng cuối cùng trong ngày vừa tắt, cùng từ nhà xuống đến bệnh viện, anh đến bên Tieu Ca, người con gái nhỏ bé mà anh thương, đang nằm yên lặng trên giường bệnh sau những ngày mệt mỏi về cả thể xác và tinh thần. Hôm nay, bác sĩ thông báo một tin khiến cả anh và cô đều nhẹ đi những gánh nặng. Tieu Ca có thể xuất viện. Cô đã vượt qua những ngày nằm viện với thân thể yếu ớt, tâm trí rối bời bởi lo lắng cho đứa con nhỏ vẫn đang điều trị cách đó 40 cây số. Dù sức khỏe chưa thực sự phục hồi hoàn toàn, Tieu Ca đã cố gắng ngồi dậy, thu dọn những món đồ nhỏ cùng ở bên cạnh, không để cô đụng tay vào việc gì, nhẹ nhàng xếp từng chiếc khăn, từng lọ thuốc, như thể muốn bảo vệ cô khỏi mệt nhọc dù chỉ là một phần nhỏ. Chiếc xe rời khỏi bệnh viện khi trời đã ngả tối. Trên suốt quãng đường dài, không ai nói gì nhiều. Tieu Ca thỉnh thoảng ngả đầu sang vai Hùng, ánh mắt cô lặng lẽ nhìn về phía xa, dường như trong lòng đầy lo lắng và không biết rằng liệu con của mình đã ổn không, liệu con bé có khóc, có cần được dỗ về. Họ đến bệnh viện nơi em bé đang được chăm sóc thì trời đã cũng khuya. Lên Hùng đã quyết định thuê một khách sạn nhỏ để cô nghỉ ngơi và hôm sau sẽ vào thăm em bé.